All right, good evening. Today is April the 18th. I'd like to call the meeting to order.
I've already got his. Oh, yeah, you got two of them.
Would you please stand for the prayer and then also the Pledge Allegiance of the flag?
Lord, we are gathered here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
Come in. Very nice. I pledge
allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Lorraine,
Here.
Shoemaker, Mathis,
Here.
Krug is present, Kessler,
Here.
Gopal,
Here.
Tucker.
Present.
You have a full board.
To the members of the audience, remember I have said we are televised, 4 cameras. It'll start on channel, if you have Charter Communications, 191. We'll start possibly this Thursday from 8 in the morning, noon, for that time for the next 2 weeks. Sometimes you'll turn it on, it might be a basketball game from the school or something, but 2 weeks on 191. You're welcome, and tonight we're going to have you come up to the podium and give your name. You do not have to give your address. Approval of tonight's agenda. Are there any requests to amend tonight's agenda?
Oh, should we do an update on the attorney search?
On the attorney's,
Just tell them what we've been up to, or? They can just do a report.
we can,
or
you want
just a
a report?
Quick report.
So you
yeah.
want to report on at reports then?
Yeah, just, won't be anything big, but.
Can't get this open.
Dirty business, we're talking about lawyers.
Do you want to do it at board comment?
That's fine. Whatever
Okay.
you want to do it, that's fine.
All right. A motion is in order to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? All favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion is carried. Included in the packet are the minutes for April the 4th. Are there any corrections or request revisions to the meeting minutes? The meeting minutes stand as approved, as presented. Expenditures. Are there any questions in front of you in regards to the expenditures? All right, a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $418,382.68. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
I vote yes. Mathis.
Yes.
Kessler,
Yes.
Shoemaker,
Yes.
Gopal,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Public hearings, none. Reports. In the audience, we have Fire Chief Ryan Bowles. He's here to present his first quarter report to the Fenton Township, about the Fenton Township Fire Department
And Tyrone Township.
and Tyrone Township.
Good evening. We have 181 alarms for the first quarter. We have 8 fires, that 1 explosion, 137 EMS. We have 5 hazardous calls. We have 10 service calls. We have 13 good intent calls. We have 5 false alarms, and we have 2 severe weather calls. And that's in Fenton Township. Of those, 22 of them were calls in Tyrone Township. There were 3 fires, 15 service calls, 2 good intent calls, 2 service calls, 1 good intent call, and 1 severe storm.
Explosion, chief?
And what was that?
It's that like that one that was from last time. It was, I can't remember what it was.
Okay,
I knew I should have looked it up and noted it.
that's all right.
Well, it's been a
Not a
month.
test.
I knew you were going to ask
I remember talking about it, and I probably
Yeah.
asked the same question back then.
on the last one. And also, I'd like to make note, it is getting to be warmer weather out, and people are burning leaves and stuff. We've been running a lot of open burns, so I just want to let them know it's illegal to burn leaves in the township.
Illegal, yep.
So, just keep an eye on that. You can't burn building materials, leaves, brush piles, any of that stuff. You can have a cooking fire or a campfire, 3 by 3 by 3, and it's got to be more. It should be at least 50 feet away from your any structures, and it should have a garden hose out there or a pail of water just in case. And try not to burn on windy days because it's pretty dry out right now. And they're talking about putting the burn bans on, but we don't usually do that. So.
If the fire department gets a call, Chief, do you give the person a warning?
They'll get a warning the first time, depending on the severity. And then usually the second offense, they'll get billed.
They'll get billed. What's the cost?
Depends on it depends on the issue. It could,
Okay. And I know you've ticketed them also.
Yeah, we
taken them to
ticketed
court,
numerous people, so.
because they just kept open burning.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mark?
On the flip side of that, what if somebody calls on a legal burn? What if it's a campfire or a
We'll come out and we'll check it out. If the thing is with our ordinance, if the smoke is bothering the neighbor, then it has to be put out. So and that's one of the issues with it is the smoke's always going into their houses, or it's windy enough where it moves around, it's not going straight up. So that's where we usually have our instances. If the callback's from across the lake, then we kind of, if it's not a next door neighbor, we really won't lean on them to put it out. But if it's the next door neighbor or a few houses down, the
Understood.
smoke's bugging them, then we'll put it out.
I just wonder, I mean, we're having these criteria for legal burns, and then I want to make sure that if it's within your parameters and you get a neighbor that's just not being neighborly, you're not going to put it out.
And it's usually, what it usually winds up is it's a little neighborhood battle, so they're calling back and forth on each other. So we try to stay out of that.
Okay. Thank
So,
Is there any board comments? Anything else? Chief, you got the truck up there.
yep, the new Tahoe's in service and been running calls, so.
So should we?
Replaced the 2003 and it's ran, I think, about 70 calls already, so
Really?
it's been busy.
It's all equipped now.
Yep. It carries everything but a ALS drug box and, what else would the ALS carry, Mark? Doesn't have the drug box?
Cardiac monitors?
Yeah, and the monitor, so it's licensed as a first responder. So,
Okay.
Saw somebody looked a lot like you shining that thing up this morning.
I saw you drive by.
All right. Well,
All right.
thank you very much, Chief.
All right, have a good evening.
Communications, none. Adoption of ordinances, none. Unfinished business, none. The new business is Parks and Recs plan, and this is the update from Rowe Professional Services. We mentioned last board meeting that we received a $3,000 grant from the Community Foundation of Greater Flint to pay for the amendment to our Parks and Rec plan. Tom Broecker, would you like to explain this, please?
Yes, the proposal from Rowe is simply to go through the required steps to amend the existing plan. It does not extend the expiration of the plan. It'll still be, I think it's 2018 or 19. But it will amend the plan to add the trail network, which would then position us to be eligible for other grants for that part of the park components. They're estimating $3,000 will cover the cost of all requirements of the amendment. So the recommendation is to approve it with a cost not to exceed $3,000, so the grant will cover all of it.
Is there any conversation from the board members in regards to this?
Well, this is, as basically we all know, another step in getting a DNR grant to turn the park into something for the residents. I'm talking about the ball fields and soccer fields and the walk. We've all seen the plan. Just to insert it now, the dog park, it was
Oh,
kicked
I was
off
gonna say.
Wednesday. There should be flyers coming out at the end of the week, and we're gonna go from there.
Any other board discussion in regards to it? All right, I need a motion to approve the proposal for Rowe Professional Services to complete an amendment to the Fenton Township Park and Rec Plan with a cost not to exceed $3,000. Do I have that motion?
So moved.
Do I have, okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Shoemaker.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
I vote yes. Mathis.
Yes.
Motion passes.
All right, John, I'm bringing up now board comment, and you're talking about the attorney, and then I just wrote to Mr. Krug in regards to the dog park, but you already told about it. Would you like to speak?
Sure, well, I don't know if I should, there are three of us.
Well, we'll all if we have
you
to,
know,
yeah.
But I just kind of want to bring everybody up to speed. We had 7 applicants for the position that Mr. Cooley is surrendering after 45 years, under duress. We did 7 interviews between a week ago today and the Friday before that. So we being myself, Bonnie, and Bob, interviewed every single one of them. And my problem is I know every single one of them. And we had 7 really good candidates. And I told Bob and Bonnie, what makes it hard for me is, you know, whoever we say yes to, we're going to be saying no to a lot of good people. Sometimes it's easier if the choice isn't so hard. But the fact of the matter is, you know, we had really good, high-level quality of candidates to choose from. We're getting close. You know, I think Bonnie's going to bring a recommendation probably next meeting.
Next meeting.
We'll have it down. We've kind of got it whittled down a little bit. And nobody's, if you want to know, talk to me
You can
later.
call, yeah.
I'm not going to name names on the TV, but the process has been moving along, and really good candidates. That's really about all I got to say.
It's kind of like when we did the code enforcement officer. We had 12 candidates, and that was another one that was hard to pick. The qualifications, every one of these
That
is
turned out pretty well.
unbelievable. Yeah,
Isn't it?
Yeah. We had allowed a half hour per interview. Well, knowing attorneys, it took us an hour per interview for each one of them.
And I was trying to get it down to 15 minutes. It was
And
not even
so
close.
it took us 2 days to get them all in, but it was very well. I mean, I really enjoyed it. We learned a lot about the knowledge of these gentlemen and a lady. And so I'll bring it back to you in 2 weeks, recommendation. And then, Bob, I had just wrote down about dog park, but you're all set on that.
Yep.
And the next meeting, do you remember? I don't remember when the next, do you remember the next meeting? This young man here? Weren't you at the meeting? The dog park meeting?
No.
No.
No? Oh, you look identical to him. Yes.
This is only my second time here.
Okay, all right. I'm sorry. You do look like a young gentleman was at the meeting.
Wouldn't you ask me the time I don't bring my calendar? It was 2 weeks from this Wednesday is the other one.
Okay, and it'll be,
at 5 o'clock
2 weeks from
Yes.
this Wednesday?
from the past.
Past
Wednesday.
past
past
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yes.
All right, let's see if we can put a real date on that. Past Wednesday was the 13th, so
13th.
2 weeks from that will be
20
the 27th.
Okay,
Correct.
On a Wednesday, right?
correct. So if anybody's interested, the group that is formed and really taken over getting it built will be back together on the 27th.
Where at?
Right here at the township, either upstairs or down here.
Time?
5?
Thank you.
All right, is there any other board comment on any item? All right, I'm going to open it up to public comment on agenda and non-agenda items. Would you please come up and stand at the podium, give your name? You're welcome to do that now.
My name is Terry Garfield, and I'd just like to address Mr. Krug. We had a meeting on Friday night, and I got an email that, I don't know if you got a copy, but I'm going to give you a copy.
From Joe Graves?
Yeah,
We
did
all-
you get a
we
I
all
copy?
was
got it.
going to give you a copy.
I got one.
Okay.
We've just kind of like a follow-up on, you know, what transpired after the meeting and kind of where we're going at this point, in your opinion.
Well, I have only had a couple hours. I had a funeral today, so I wasn't able to get it going. I talked to Joe personally, and as he said in the email, that as it looked on Friday, blight would be a, pardon me, a hard thing to prove. He suggested that we take the approach of health and safety.
Right.
He also, when we walked it after the meeting, pointed out that it is private property, so what he thought we should do, and I talked to Commissioner Brown, is have a meeting that will educate the residents in the park to mechanisms that they can use to improve the park or improve their trailer. What he suggested is we get the sheriff, the health department, the community foundation, because as you and I talked, several people called
Right.
you that were encouraged that somebody wanted to look at it, but they didn't know where to go to get the help. Case in point, two of them, one was a lady, when she went to bed at night, she had turned her lights off and then flashed back on. And she'd turn them off, flash back on. So her worry was a potential fire. Another one was a lady who moved in when when it was still cold, not last weekend, but when it was really cold, and had consumers come out to light her furnace, and consumers told her that they wouldn't light it because it was unsafe and had the potential of explosion and or fire, and then also informed her in their work they discovered that there was black mold. I believe it was under the flooring.
She didn't say where it was. She said she had holes in the floor and there were cats living.
I guess that's where I was
Yeah,
when she said
right.
about the holes, so.
Well, we were talking about having a special meeting. Is that still being considered?
I
Don't know.
haven't
Okay, all right. Well,
got with
Can I
any
just
of the
ask
other
you,
board members.
what lot number was this lady? For the
I'll give you
Yeah,
her name.
I don't want to give it.
I'll give you her name after the meeting.
And then the other lady, the lot number, and we'll
I
check
ha-
that, those two things out.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. Well, we'll slow down a little then, tonight.
Did all the folks get a copy of
Joe's.
Everybody,
Joe's?
I've passed one around, but I don't think everybody's had
Here,
it.
I've got did you, all of you get one?
Yeah.
Oh, I
I
can
printed some
go
up
out and get, oh,
for the
okay.
board, but they already got them. So you can have these.
I don't know if it was mentioned, but I talked to Commissioner Brown. I went on a walkthrough as well with them. And one of the things that Commissioner Brown raised was making inquiry about the water supply system for the park. He believes that it's on a single common well. I didn't see any wellheads when I was walking around, so I think that's probably true. And as you probably know, Tony's a bit of a water expert, so he said there's an a number of reports that are supposed to be filed periodically. And he did mention it to Representative Graves and asked him to check into that to see if that was being done as well. My impression, I don't know what you folks thought about it, but that was as nice as I've ever seen that park look when I walked through that night.
They were busy little beavers up there.
Yeah, I mean, the trash was full, but they had the lids closed. I agree with what Joe Graves said. You really wouldn't be able to prove a blight case with the way it looked that night. So you're gonna have to remain diligent, because it's like teenagers cleaning up a room. You can get them to clean it up on a particular day, but then there are other days after that. So, you know, it's gonna take some watching on it. My personal take, I mean, I walked through, there was a bunch of those mobile homes that I would think that if you got inside of them, it wouldn't pass inspections. And I talked to Tom a little bit about it this morning, and he said, you know, we've been trying to inspect them and trying to get them from that standpoint. It is somebody's house. I think it would help to have somebody from inside complaining about their house instead of...
We had some calls.
Yeah.
We invited them to the meeting, but I don't know if they got scared off or what happened.
Right.
They didn't come. One thing I've done, I did a little research on, those things weren't, back in the day, they really weren't intended as long-term housing. They're made out of 2x2s. They're just not very well constructed.
Oh, there's no insulation, no construction.
But up until '72, they were allowed to use aluminum wiring. And aluminum wiring fails if it's exposed to oxygen. And that's why these ladies are telling me that when they turn their lights on, they'll be on for a few minutes and then they flash and don't work. So there probably is definitely some health and safety issues with the wiring, because it hasn't been allowed to be used in residential construction since '76.
Well, there's a number of units in there that are older than that.
Well, the newest one in there is 66, because that's the last year that they made it 10 by 60, or 10 by 50. They
Yeah.
stopped making it. So they're all 50 years old.
There's one there that I know is newer than that. It's
Well-
right on the end. I don't know which one. It had a nice bay window in it. I could tell that was...
Yeah, there might be a couple down there.
Yeah. But there are a bunch of them that are much older than what you're talking about. Some of them look 60-ish to me.
Well, there's some 50.
50-ish.
Yeah.
I'm not that old, so my memory doesn't go back that far.
Well, I'm that old, so much got daylights on.
They what?
They have license plate holders on.
All right, yes.
My name's Al Wilson,
Al Wilson.
and my question is just to find out how will these people, will they be notified on in the trailer park of what they can do, what they can't do? I mean, you guys are talking about having some type of a meeting. Will these people have some way of knowing when the meeting is?
Well, I haven't had a chance to
Okay.
go into details, but what I'm going to propose, and I guess I'm proposing it now, is that we coordinate a meeting and notify every resident, not only in the trailer park, but along Eastview or any of the concerned people. Hopefully that will give them an opportunity to learn what they can and can't do.
Yeah, and that's gonna be a big deal for them.
Yeah, and
I'm going, yeah.
the example that Mr. Graves gave when he was clerk in Argentine, the house down, just, I think it was right next door, one house from him had been built. It was still built strong, but it was never painted. And when they attempted to say it was blight, the judge informed them there is no law that says you have to paint your house. Now,
That's true.
forget logic, but there was, and they never did accomplish having that gentleman paint the house. And now it's torn down and a new one has been built.
But that's even true on a new build.
Yep.
If they don't finish the siding, you know, they have that insulation and that board and all that, it can go for a while. And we don't have ordinances on that either. Like in subdivisions, when they build a house and run out of money or whatever, the siding and that, if it's not completed, there's no ordinance for that. Yes, Ted?
I'm Ted Gopel. I wanted to revisit the issue of how complaints are initiated. At our last meeting, I think we came to the conclusion, at least the board did, that the only way complaints can be initiated is by citizens. Is that correct?
By what now?
Citizens,
Yes.
us,
Oh, yeah,
okay?
anyone, any
So
person.
if the code enforcement officer is driving around, sees an obvious violation of an ordinance, he has to find someone to sign a complaint?
Yes, and I can, Generally. Every place that we go in this township is complaints. I mean, people are, and I do know this even on Eastview, people are doing additions on their home, no building permit. If I don't get a complaint on it, I'm not going to send a code enforcement officer out there.
You're gonna let the violation exist.
Pardon me?
You're gonna let the violation exist if nobody turns in a complaint.
Mr. Cooley, I'll let him answer you.
That's the way it works, Ted. You remember from your days on the board?
No, I remember from our days, the building inspector, we didn't have a code enforcement officer. When he drove around the township, if he saw a violation, an unlicensed vehicle or something, he gave it a ticket. No complaint was signed by anyone except himself.
I got one.
Well,
But
they
Is
can
it
do
on this
that,
one
Ted.
here, Joe Graves states?
The code enforcement officer can do that, and on occasion, he will do that. But there are so many places in the township where for years, violations of local ordinances.
He did say that, though, didn't he, Graves, tell
That
about
we
the form
don't
of a complaint?
want to stir up the pot. If the neighbors aren't complaining, and we leave well enough alone, as a practical matter.
And from
I'm
what I
not
understand,
suggesting that he should be on patrol. I'm saying in his travels around the township, if he sees a violation, whether it's health, welfare, or safety, I think he's putting this board in jeopardy if he doesn't do something about it.
You're probably right.
If there's,
But they
if
have
you
to
look at the
sign complaint,
Flint
don't
water situation,
Yeah, we may.
now that they know
He can
what,
find something.
what happened, and there was previous knowledge that this was dangerous, they're in a tough spot on how to deal with that. So I'm saying that I don't think this board should continue the policy of only getting complaints from citizens. I think the code enforcement officer ought to have some authority to do that.
He does have the authority. That he clearly has the authority. There's no doubt about it. But we can't have him doing that full time because we have so much other stuff that he needs to do. But your point is very well taken, and you are certainly
Okay.
correct.
I have one other issue. I suppose most of you are probably aware of the dangerous building ordinance. Ordinance number 719, this township.
Yeah.
That ordinance refers to dangerous buildings or structures. Would that apply to this park or any other park?
Ted, I can tell you, we've taken 5 down with
Okay.
that.
Then there's a lot of enforcement capability in this ordinance for the township to apply to a situation we're talking about. We're talking about a situation that's likely to cause sickness, that's black mold, disease, or likely to injure the health, safety, and welfare of people living in the dwelling. Doesn't
If
that
we
give you
find
some,
black mold, or somebody
or
complains.
anything?
No, let's
You
just
know-
say black mold.
If you got rats, or if you got holes in the floor, you got things like that, Isn't that a
Yes,
issue?
and we do go in and
Township-
check it out. But if it's black mold, because there's been
Sure, I understand
different
that.
apartment houses that rent out and have black mold, health department is called. And the health department comes in and checks that, yes.
Okay. How did that come about, you know? The
How
black
did-
mold issue? How'd the complaint,
A resident in the apartment house
okay.
complained, and we went out, and then we had to call the health department.
I'd like the board to research, take a look at the dangerous building ordinance, number 1719 of 2010, and see if there aren't some issues that apply to these kinds of buildings. There's a lot of health and safety issues that I think are present in that park that might get some attention through this ordinance.
All right, I know some of you people must have seen the trailers, I believe it was last year, a year before, 2 of them taken out.
I know.
And the gentleman sat there
Right.
and he tore them apart and then hauled everything out. They were dangerous buildings.
This even deals with broken windows.
Okay, we'll check it, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay, I just have a couple of things to say. Al, when you were saying people in the trailer park could be notified, on Friday, I was told and dropped in and found a flyer. Somebody gave me a flyer and it says, "Attention residents." These flyers were put in, not in the mailbox, but in the chute, and then also to the people in the trailer park. So this is what the flyer says. Do you want to see something done with the trailer park on Eastview or on Lake Panema? There's already a group of concerned residents that have been taking steps to make this happen. We understand that this has been a problem for many years, but we are not going to go away. We are just getting started. It is important that you come to support the effort and bring your neighbors too. There is strength in numbers. There will be a meeting at such and such with Senator Ken Horn, Representative Joe Graves, Commissioner Tony Brown, after a tour through the trailer park. We have attended a few township meetings as well and addressed our concerns. They are aware that we mean business and no longer allowing this to be swept under the rug. It's time. So please collect your pictures of blight and jot down issues that you have with your trailer park and attend this meeting. They were notified. The people were notified. I did not know about this until I got some calls. I got a call from a little old lady that was scared to death. And she said, "What am I going to do?" She said, "I am on a full oxygen tank." And she says, "I only can go as far as my hose. I have just my little dog and I, and what is going to happen? Are these people coming through and wanting to come into my home, scared to death?" I said, "No." I reassured her. Another young man called. Now, if I got other type of reports, I'd tell you. Another young man called, said, "Ma'am, I live in a trailer. I do nothing wrong. I go to work. This is my first home. I'm proud of my home." He said, now this is a man that said he would come to a meeting. He said, "Do these people understand that I'm just as good as they are and that I am not doing anything wrong?" Now, I only got 2 complaints, but they were notified, and I thought that's kind of a cruel way to notify him. It was more, I'm saying, I'm saying you can notify people, and if you want to do another meeting, but this is signed by 2 people. But don't do it that way.
No.
That's scared.
I'm not that, I wouldn't want to threaten those people for nothing.
No.
I don't
And
see
I
a threat in
understand.
here.
Huh?
I see nothing wrong with this.
Well, this little lady and this young
I
gentleman.
understand that, but there's nothing here that says let's kick them out. It
Oh,
says,
no,
"Let's
I
clean it up."
didn't read that, Mark.
Yeah.
I just said that's what it was, but that scared them. I
Okay.
only read what the person told me was put in her mailbox, and the young man. So, anyway, Mr. Krug, Mr. Graves called me and said it went well. Everything went well with your meeting, and the people turned out, the people turned out, and it was a good discussion. Senator Horn, did you get a letter in the mail today from
Yes.
him? And said the same thing. So they were happy. So we have climbed the ladder. They did say about the drug house, that the drug house, the sheriff said, is legal. And you got that in one of these letters.
It's in Joe's.
In
where he
Joe's.
mentions.
So I know he mentioned that to you. I don't know what the other conversation was.
We're concerned for those residents. I understand what they're under and all their problems.
Well, you're all good people. I mean, there's nothing, you're
I
concerned.
don't want to hurt them. I understand why they're there. All I'm saying is, I get a feeling is that they really don't know what to do.
I think you're right, Al. I think this is a good education, even for the people in the park, and when they call you, to educate them that they have rights. I'm sure these people don't want to live in these parks, and maybe until now, they didn't know that they could complain, you know, whatever their lot rent is, and, you know, they have rights to live in a up-to-code house too, and we need to let the park residents know that they do have a voice, either be it here or through this group or through me. You know, I can pass it up the chain too, but you know, maybe I'm saying the word ignorant, not in a derogatory way, but maybe you know, they were ignorant to the fact that they did have these rights, and think, you know, because we're living where we are, that maybe there's limited
It's true.
truths that we can, you know, maybe we're not up to par with the neighbors down the street in the $500,000 houses, and hopefully somebody notified every one of them. And I'm sure there's more pride in that park now, the way it looks now, than it did a month ago. You know, I'd be more proud to live in that park than I would a month ago, the way it looks now. I mean, I drive by, my parents are here, you know, and I drive by there 3 times a week, and it's as nice as I've seen it too. And maybe we started the ball rolling, or you started the ball rolling, that maybe they're gonna have a little pride in their park too, and they can address the external issues outside, but now maybe we can educate them that we can also get these issues, you know, invite us into your house so we can find these violations that are, you know, being, occurring in your facility, and we can let the owners know, and, you know, if they wanna keep the park the cash cow that it is,
Like Mr. Duffy
update
said,
it.
he mentioned the fact that it's like your teenagers, or you're like
Yeah,
raising kids. And I mentioned that a while back, you know, but
maybe they don't know.
that owner needs to be responsible for, he's gotta keep after those people to keep it clean. And keep it up to snuff.
There's still some issues there. The mobile home ordinance is, you can't have boats and snowmobiles and things stored,
You're right,
and there's 5 of them.
you bet.
There's 5 of them on the street that need to be in the storage lot. And there's 3 trailers on the street that have debris, just trash, and they didn't clean up. And I don't know if those are guys that own their own, because some of those are owned by people. But not everybody cleaned up. There's still 30 or 40 violations over there that were ignored, that didn't get done. So, in our opinion, this was a good start to clean it up, to your comment about they're taking some pride in it. But the guys who haven't taken it seriously, there's a guy with a paddle boat right on the side of the road right now that's got a hole in it, and he's patching it with some kind of tar, and he's got a 2x4 holding it up, and it's been there for, how long, 4 or 5 days? And it's right on the edge of the street. And, huh?
They could fall.
Yeah, there were kids out there playing on the side of the street tonight. If one of them was under that thing and somebody hit that 2x4, it could have fallen on them. So there's still more code enforcement work that needs to be done with that. I'm kind of ignorant about this. I've never got involved with all this government ordinances and things before, but there's an ordinance that says you can't operate a business of any kind out of a mobile home. And since this grow house is legal, I think that that ordinance should be changed to say the only business you can operate out of a mobile home is a grow house. Because it's contradicted. You can't say you can't have a business in one ordinance and then say we're going to let him have a business in it. So I think that should be corrected. There's a problem with that ordinance.
Mr.
Let me
yeah.
just, you probably heard earlier, I give a quick report on the attorney interviews that we were doing. I had
Okay.
7 attorneys that do a lot of municipal law. And Bob had raised the very ordinance that you are talking about in some discussions we had about this issue. Now, I had some concerns about the validity of the ordinance because it's 1977 vintage, and I know when the Michigan Mobile Home Commission came along. So I had a little pop quiz I gave all of these attorneys, which is part of the fun of being an attorney and sitting on the interview thing. But one of the things that I asked them all, I said, we have a 1977 ordinance, and it's short enough. You just said what it says.
That's it.
And I told them it says this. My question is it enforceable? Now, you guys might correct me if I'm wrong. I want to say 5 of these 7 immediately said no, it is no longer enforceable. Michigan Mobile Home Commission has jurisdiction over that sort of stuff. You can't discriminate. So there's a point that I'm making is there's some question as whether that ordinance is valid. 5 of the 7 applicants for the position right off the bat said no, you can't enforce that. So not saying that there aren't other things you can do, I just wouldn't hang my hat on that ordinance per se because it's of dubious use at the moment.
Well, I'm not an attorney, so when I read something and then something else happens, it
No, I
confuses me.
understand.
I'm just a simple
And
man.
I am an attorney, and I didn't know. I mean, everybody's got opinions. They're like belly buttons. We pass them around. Everybody's entitled to one. But I had a sense of an issue. And I wanted to know what these applicants had to say about it because I'm not going to argue with them, yes or no, one way or the other. But I would say 5 of the 7 pretty clearly and pretty quickly said no, that's not enforceable.
Most of the,
Hire one of the other two.
We,
Enough you make your decision.
something about that came up in our meeting, and Joe Graves pointed out, and Terry and I had seen it before, in the state statute regarding mobile home, a local government can pass an ordinance that regulates issues in a mobile home park. But what you have to do, write the ordinance, or the essence of it, send it to the mobile home commission or board, and if they agree that that's a reasonable ordinance, they'll send it back and you can write it up and adopt it.
And if you don't hear back from them in 30 days, it's your ordinance. They won't answer you.
I think it's 90 days.
I thought it said 30, but a certain period of time, if they like your ordinance, they will not even answer you. Just when the clock runs out, you're off and running.
And that's not a bad way to do it. But
Joe Graves and Ken Horn both said that you guys have way more authority with these mobile home parks than you guys think you have.
when
That
Joe,
your hands aren't as tied as you think.
well, I'm gonna do a mea culpa on that issue. I was waiting for somebody to raise it again. I was probably the guy that started the our hands is tied discussion, okay? You have to understand, I started before I was a trustee and before I was treasurer, I was on the chairman of the planning commission for a number of years. And from a planning standpoint, where can they go? What can I do for site plan approval? My hands are tied. I'll show you up in the air like that. I hope I didn't do it at the meeting. I probably did. But I had no intention of saying that we can't enforce our zoning ordinance, that we can't enforce our criminal ordinances. That's clearly not the case. So we get that. And I probably, my statement from my planning perspective probably got misconstrued, at least as to how far I intended it to go. That's one of my frustrations I have with the Michigan Mobile Home Commission. It's not really germane to you guys because this park's been here longer than I've been taking in oxygen. So
46.
really,
Been here since 1946.
my grandpa knew that. Huh?
Yes, Gary.
Gary Walker. These gentlemen are doing a fine job here, but I was looking and listening to everything everybody had to say, but I may have missed this, but you know, I got some education in fire technology,
Yeah.
and you know, you were talking about how they have taken out a couple of trailers and they're tearing down. They're trying to clean up a little bit, but what some of the things I seen was like they tear down a couple trailers and they're tearing them down themselves and getting them out of there.
Mm-mm, no,
No?
no. Hired.
Hired?
Hired to have it, yes.
Okay. Because, I mean, I was under the impression that some of them were tearing them down themselves, and then I seen where people were taking like some of the metal and some of the stuff off of other trailers, and then they're putting those breezeway or lean-to things in front of their door, and then there's no fire gap in between the trailers. If that one catches on fire, this one's going to catch in, you know, 3 minutes because
Gary,
there's this much space.
we're April. In May, and it might even be the end of April, we go through that park, the fire chief, the building inspector, code enforcement officer, sheriff, and we go through each trailer. And the fire chief will go in, building inspector. If we can condemn them, we will condemn them. When they were saying about the gentleman or the lady with consumers, as soon as, now I'm going to call consumers on this one, because if they go in and something is dangerous, somebody's got to be notified. And if they notify the owner, I don't know, but the township should be. We had a complaint, and I had said this about the gas leak. The minute I got that complaint, consumers was there, we shut everything off. We had another complaint, and you were just saying it, in regards, into fire. Fire chief goes in, we brought in the detectors, put them in the mobile home. The building inspector has come in, he does the regular code, state code, everything. Now, we'll do that, and if the weather's good, we're going to do it at the end of April or right around in May. Okay. Then we come in around September and do the same thing.
Well, I got a couple follow-up questions that I had about that. Is, I mean, there's no halo on this head. There isn't. But I pretty much like everybody. I really do. And I don't think I'm better than anyone else. I think everybody is pretty much as good as anybody. It's just about your attitude. But, you know, where was I going to go with that? Is
you were talking about fire.
Yeah, the safety thing is, you know, the question here's the question was, here's how I'm going to phrase it. That trailer park was built when? 46. Okay. Now the ordinances, if they had any ordinances about how close trailers can be back then, I doubt they did. But if there is an ordinance that they have to be so far apart for safety reasons, just for if one caught on fire. And what about, because, I mean, like I said, I'm only thinking about this off of the safety issue. Some of those trailers, there's no space in between hardly at all.
No. Well, even in our, and I totally agree. In our homes that are being built, people come in and want a 5-foot variance. And then the neighbor next door wants a 5-foot variance, 10 feet. There was a huge fire on Wynwood, I believe last summer, and the houses were 10 feet apart. When the one house caught on fire, the flames went over, their pontoon was between the two houses. That house pontoon exploded, caught the other house on fire. Fire chief came to me and said, you know what, this stuff is crazy. 5-foot variance on each lot is wrong. He said, because there it was. People on Lake store their boats between houses, and it went to 3 houses, caught on 3 different houses. So also firewalls. New homes should have a firewall, and I totally believe in that. But you're right, Gary.
Because, I mean, if you take away the space, even in regular houses, like you said, you take away the distance, there's a driveway, that's what I call them, a driveway or easement in between the houses. It's there for a reason. Draft out of the lake for the fire department, service, public usage, in and out, or whatever it's designed for, or just a fire break. When that's gone, there's nothing in between to protect you from one to the other.
No, and that is our biggest fear, is
And
the
you got
fire.
houses
Because
that-
you've had huge fires.
Houses that ask for the variance to get the addition, and they want to add on, and then, like you said, it's lost. It's gone. And,
No, you're right.
I mean,
And you
everybody needs a place to live, and everybody should like everybody, I think, but, you know.
No, I know
The
you
trailer
know
park
that-
shouldn't be able to, the owner of the trailer park shouldn't be able to allow people to put their lives in jeopardy if he's the owner of that park, in my opinion. He's got to say, hey, this isn't safe, we shouldn't be doing this. That's all.
Absolutely.
I know there was more I wanted to say, but I get up here and I can't think of everything, so. that's it.
Example, I drove down one day and a woman came up and came to my car window and started talking to me, and she said, I have, I don't know if it was bed bugs or some kind of bugs in mine. And I said, really? And she says, come on in. She showed me her arm. She was all bit up. And I said, no, no, no. Then I turned it in. I came here, turned it in the health department. The other one was an older gentleman that had died in a trailer and had been there for a while. That went into the health department. It was also the gas leak. The furnace, the young man that came called here, he lived in the trailer. Furnace and fuse box was shutting his furnace off all the time. We got an electrical person in there and got that all straightened in one day. So, but from what I understand, all of you, it was a good meeting. And it doesn't mean that you can't come back. You're welcome to come back. But I think it's something that's been going on for a long time, and I think we're going to have to keep working. Does anybody know anything about the trailer? I mean, the pop-up trailer?
It's
still there.
Is it?
No.
It's
No,
either- It's
no.
either gone or they've moved it farther
No.
back.
No.
On Friday, I met with the sheriff and the code enforcement officer and the tow truck. And on Friday, we removed it. And I've got pictures of it on my phone, but it's gone. It's gone. One person called in and said, see, I get both sides of it too. I'm not going to say it. There was something about who's hanging out in that trailer, and it was bad, just bad. But
The owner didn't claim he did it.
no. The tow company has got it. They're going to scrap it, and then we had to sign a paper to the sheriff, and they gave us permission to give it to the tow company, and they'll scrap it. Yes, sir.
My name's Walt DeMel, and I wondered if there's any kind with the grow house. You know, most schools are drug-free areas. Now, there's a school bus stop right by that drug house. Is there an ordinance that says that can't be that way? And especially when I just read in that little flyer you handed out that you can smell that marijuana coming from that grow house.
There is no ordinance. What I would suggest, you have a very active group right here. If this active group shows up at a school board meeting just once, I think you'll find that bus stop moved.
Yeah, but that's not fair to the kids if they gotta walk, you know, down to Landing's Way, for instance,
Either you want it moved or you don't. I mean, I can't tell you, but I wouldn't want it there. I would push it either to the other end of the park, bring it out into the one end or the other, into the residential or non-mobile home park areas. You don't need to move it far, but in front of a grow house, if I'm sitting on a board of education and that's brought to my attention by a group of 30
concerned
He's
residents.
right.
I think that stop is moved tomorrow, if you ask me, so, but that's just me.
Guarantee it.
Now, on Friday, just to tell the board, there isn't just one bus load. I counted 4. I was at the bus stop at that time. There's 4 buses that come, different children, different ages.
It's different age groups.
They all stop at the
Middle
same place?
school,
All stop at the same place.
elementary, and high.
There's a stack of railroad ties there that they sit on and wait for the bus out there next to the, not supposed to be one of those goofy ordinance violations. There's no reason, that stack of railroad ties has been there for years.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak?
I would just like to say one more thing on these buses. You know, years ago, those buses, that route would run all the way to the end of the road. And there is room for those buses to be able to turn around. Now, they can back up and the garbage trucks come down, the county trucks come down and the plows. There's no reason for those buses not to be able to run the length of Eastview Drive. There's a lot of parents with children that have to walk down to that bus stop, and the whole area of Eastview Drive, where they actually could go down and turn around. Years ago, one of the residents halfway down, he allowed the buses to back up into his lot. Well, his kids moved on and rolled away, and that's not done anymore. But anybody on Eastview Drive is gonna walk the distance to the trailer park.
That's a school board issue.
How does the garbage trucks turn
They
around?
turn around in the turnaround.
Okay.
There's a T,
Walt is a bus driver for the
GISD.
Yeah.
Special needs.
Yeah,
We have
I've seen it.
special needs
And there's a
buses
special-
that need to go down there to drop the special
Yes.
needs kids off, and they can't.
I saw that at the bus stop, yes.
There was a kid that I had, she graduated last year, but I used to go down, you know, and turn around down there, not a problem.
We'll check with the school, but what Mr. Tucker said,
No, I agree with you, although I think one of the parents that were at another meeting, had mentioned that to the township, or not to the school, and they didn't really give them much of a.
Well, they called them bigoted is what I recall they said, but I'd like to see them do that to a group of 30.
No, you're right.
I don't think that's gonna happen.
Right, so,
Put the show on the road.
I don't know if any of the people here that had kids at that time, I don't know. I know my kids, they had to walk, and I'm almost.
see, and actually what you're saying is school picked that point. So the school could change that. And actually, as I was watching them, they even back up at that T there where the pink trailer is. They back up and then they pull back out. So if they do that, those children could be across the street if they won't go down the street, you know, to pick them up. But we can question it, yeah.
Yeah, that would be beneficial to those kids, probably to the parents don't like going down. I didn't like my kids going down.
There's a lot of traffic on that road, a lot of traffic. Is there any other board comments to the residents? Is there anyone else? Yes, sir. Would you please come and give your name?
Hi, my name's Toby Braggy.
Toby?
I drove by one night and there was a gentleman burning his mattress in his yard. And the only logical or sane reason I could think to do that was bed bugs. And you'd mentioned the bugs, and this was the trailer
Might have been.
closest to the dumpster. So, I mean, there was really no reason for that that I could think of other than bed bugs. So there's got to be a bug problem.
We get reports, though, from houses, too, in regards to it. I mean, we do.
Okay.
But you're right, that might be why he was burning it, but he shouldn't have. Anything like that ever happens, you call the fire department.
No, I probably should have, but I kind of drove by and shook my head and went, wow, that was strange.
Thank you, Toby.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? If not, I will say good evening, the meeting is adjourned. And it was a good meeting.